Reminder to everyone, same as previously, no flash photography. Video recording must be done through the distribution site in the back of the room, and media members are reminded that they should identify themselves and direct questions at specific student athletes. You can also continue to find these transcripts at nca.com/transcripts, or we'll send them out at the conclusion of these press conferences as well. Student athletes that are not currently available in the press conference are in their locker rooms at this point for the next 30 minutes until our press conferences conclude. Joining us will be Miles Bridges, Tum Tum Nair, and Cassius Winston. And then Tom Izzo will follow at 3:30. Welcome. We'll take questions for the student athletes. Larry?
Larry Lage, AP Cassius. How do you try to discipline yourself to go for singles? You talked about last night, you know, you like to go for home runs. How do you try to, as the games get bigger, settle for singles or be okay with singles?
You gotta keep it in your mind. You know, you gotta focus on that a lot of times. So you know, sometimes you let the game get to you, so you think there's something that you can make a play. So if I just keep it in the back of my mind and focus on it, you know, make the easy play, make the simple play, then that problem will be fixed.
For any or all of the players, just wondering how the 16 over the 1 upset last night, how much that impact you, how much you think about that, how much that confirms what we know about this tournament in your guys' minds?
I think it confirms a lot about what goes on in this tournament. You know, just anybody can get beat, you know, and you just got to focus in to make sure we do all we can to execute our game plan.
I would say that's why they call it March Madness. Every team here is good. You can't take any plays off.
Vedant Gupta, applying for Sports Illustrated for Kids. I'm dressed like I am today because I'm proud of who I am and where I'm from. Each one of you, what are you guys proud of for who you are, where you're from, and about this team?
That's a good question. You know, I believe I'm from the greatest city in the world, you know, Detroit. I'm very proud of it, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. It's a tough place, and it's a lot of love and support. Everybody there wants to see you succeed, so I'm very proud of that. And I think this team is the same way, you know. We're all together. We all want to see each other play at their very best and see each other succeed.
I'm very proud of where I'm from. I wouldn't be the man I am today if I wasn't from Flint. They instilled a lot of toughness in me. It made me mentally ready for college.
I'm also proud of where I'm from, you know, just being a kid from Nassau, Bahamas, you know, moving to America when I was 13 years old, 10 years ago. You know, like Miles said, it made me into who I am today. And I wouldn't be the person I am today if I wouldn't, you know, have born in the Bahamas. And I think, you know, with this team, you know, you have so many players from different places growing up all across America and, you know, coming together for one common cause to be the best we can be every single day and help each other live out each other's dreams.
Rico.
And I got to follow that up. Rico Beard, Spartan Beat 92-1. Guys, how with such a quick turnaround, how challenging is this Syracuse defense for you guys?
We struggled with zones in the past, but I feel like we move the ball better now. We're more experienced with it. So if we don't let them speed us up, I think we'll be fine.
There's a long, probably the longest zone, you know, you're probably going to play. So if we got to do a great job of limiting turnovers. Can't let them get turnovers. You got to keep the ball moving, make smart plays.
Just to follow up, Miles, to what you said, can't let them speed you up. Does that mean you have to be patient, not take quick shots the first shot you see over the zone?
I wouldn't say that. If we have an open shot, we have to take it because we're not guaranteed another open shot because the zone is so long. So we just have to make. When I say getting sped up, I mean like making bad passes or cross-court passes, any other type of stuff.
Cassius, what do you know about Frank Howard's game so far in the scouting report? What do you have to respect about him?
He's like I said, he's a big guard for sure. So he's gonna be able to create a couple shots. He's hard going right, and he can shoot the ball pretty well. Got pretty good range and a good athlete. So we got to do a good job of bottling him up. Force him against his tendencies. Can't let him get any set up threes or anything like that. Make every shot tough.
Any additional questions for the student athletes?
This one's for Cassius. What is the unique responsibilities for the point guard going up against a zone like this? What is your main priority?
Just to make sure our team doesn't, get impatient. Make sure we're playing with a lot of confidence. It's going to be times, a zone like that can be frustrating. So I got to do a good job just keeping everybody together, keep our heads together. And we're going to do a good job of moving the ball and getting quality shots.
Like everyone said, the Syracuse defense is tight. Anything you're going to do, like get out and start aggressive from the beginning?
Yeah, we're just going to try to move the ball around, find open spots, find open shots. Just don't let them settle in the zone because that's what really helps them.
Jack Ebling from the Team 92-1 and Fox 47. Only one team smiling on April 2nd, but what's the lesson with what happened for Isaac Haas yesterday and Virginia last night that you carry forward the rest of the tournament?
Ah, man, it's. I think the lesson is, you can't take any day for granted, man. Just, even apart from basketball, you just, if you live to see another day, you got to attack that day with everything you got. And I'm praying for Isaac because him being a senior, his last ride, his last go around with that team being a very senior-oriented team, and it sucks to see him go down. And with this tournament, if you're in this tournament, you just got to be thankful that you're in it and try to survive and advance. So I think, like I said in the beginning, it just helps you to have an appreciation for life in itself.
Yeah, definitely. Like I was telling Miles the other day, one of these games are going to be our last games of the season, whether it's a championship game or anything like that. So every opportunity you get to go out there, it's one of those games could be your last. So you got to tackle that like, it's the last chance you have.
Dalton Shetler with the Spartan Sports Network. The bench has been such a strong point for you guys throughout the season. You go into this game against Syracuse where they have 3 guys that play at least 38 minutes per game, and the Orange have played 3 games in the last 5 days. Is the bench a huge X factor for you guys going into this one?
Yeah, we would like to get in transition. Like I said, don't let them set up in that zone because that consumes some of their tiredness. So we just want to move the ball around, get in transition, kind of get them tired or in foul trouble.
Further questions for the student athletes? All right, guys, we'll dismiss
Thank
you back
you.
to locker room. Thank you. Locker room remains open for Michigan State. They, again, are in the visiting NBA locker room, and then head coach Tom Izzo will be here at 3:30. Coach, welcome. Great. We'll get started back up. Michigan State head coach Tom Izzo joins us. The Michigan State locker room remains open for just a couple more minutes, but we'll let Coach begin with an opening statement.
Well, excited, I guess, is the best statement I can give. Excited to be here. It's good to play against our old foe, Jim Boeheim. He's back at it. I mean, just doesn't seem to change. His zone is maybe bigger and taller and better than ever. The size that they present is, I think, difficult for everybody. I don't think many teams have shot it very well against them or scored very well against them. And so one of the good things about our team over the years is we were able to play fast or play slow. And, hopefully we can speed up the tempo, but they're definitely going to slow it down. And we got to figure out a way to win, whether it's going in a slow-down game and a smash-mouth game or whether it's kind of a racehorse game. So I'm looking forward to the challenge. I think our players are, and we'll see what happens.
We'll open up for questions.
Back here, Tom. With the zone coming up, and I know you got Ben a little bit of time last night. How important, how much bigger can his role be with this defense you're going to face? How important?
Well, you're
is that
right.
for him?
That's why, Matt, we did get him a little more time, just because he's pretty solid in the middle of that zone. He really has a high basketball IQ. Xavier playing a little more has really helped because he has a high basketball IQ. So we feel we had different people that we can put in different positions, but a zone is tough, man. I saw some pretty good teams watching all that tape I watched last night that struggled against it. I mean, it's hard to simulate it if you had a week to do it. It's almost impossible when you have a day to do it, and I guess that's why he's been so good in the tournament also.
Tom, thank you for your time. Looking back to your games against Boeheim and Syracuse, do you have a favorite memory in those games, or one game that stands out above the rest?
Oh, there's been a bunch of them, I remember early on we played at the Garden, and we must have had 20 turnovers against that zone. And then I remember the game at the Palace when we were down big and we came back and won big. But probably one of the funnier games is I think in 2003 or 4, I scheduled the World. I thought I was going to have, I did have a good team, but I lost a great big guy in Rosem Lorbeck. And he said to me on the recruiting trail, he goes, "Are you crazy?" Because I scheduled the World. And my last game of that preseason schedule was at Syracuse. And he called me a better choice of words, a knucklehead. You figure out what words he used, but and sure enough, they beat our brains in. I just love what he's done there. It's amazing to me how year after year after year, and even years when you don't think they're going to be as good, that defense has been so hard to deal with for a lot of teams. And like last night, it was just a grind them out, find a way to win. So we've had some great games over the years. We've played a couple times in the NCAA tournament. And my respect and admiration is very high, and just hope we can find a way to solve it.
Coach, one of the first people you spoke to after your win last night was Dave Bing. I wondered if you could recount your relationship for us.
Well, yeah, I think Dave Bing's a hero for any of us in this state. He definitely is me. I was growing up, he'll probably get mad at this, but I was a little kid. I was, looking at Dave Bing, and then the year that we played in the Final Four here, he was the mayor of Detroit, and I thought did a great job, really kind of got things back on track, and he was very supportive when we were here. And, I love the fact, like our Magic Johnson or Steve Smith or Mateen Cleaves, I love the fact that here's a guy, Dave Bing, and he's still wearing his Syracuse orange, and came to the Pistons, had an incredible years here, and remained here in Michigan. So I have tremendous respect. I saw him. I saw DC there, but I did get a chance to talk to Dave for a couple minutes.
Mike Watersman, Syracuse Post-Standard. Tom, last night after the Syracuse game, Jim Boeheim was talking about the Virginia-UMBC result and talked about how this tournament will break your heart. You've been through some of these games as well as a high seed. What is that like for coaches and players on that end of an upset?
You know, I watched Tony Bennett last night. In fact, I told I think our media during the week that, you know, I said it's going to happen. And part of me almost said, I hope it happens soon, because someday if I'm a 1 seed again, I think that's going to be unbelievable pressure. And that's what we talked about, right, in that one meeting. And, you know, the saddest part is we've had a couple times when we beat Tony, our team did. And if you know Tony Bennett at all, he's the salt of the earth guy. And I thought the class he handled that with and the interviews I saw was spectacular. But, you know, like our team a couple years ago with Denzel and them, when you got a good bunch of guys, and the way he talked, he's got a good bunch of guys, and, you know, you got everything going your way. But I've always said in this tournament, you got to be good enough to be knocking on a door, but you got to get lucky. And, you know, does one injury make them unlucky? I don't know. I didn't get a chance to see him that much, but you know, give UMB, give them credit. You know, they did an unbelievable job, and just the highlights I saw. But yeah, I feel for Tony, because I think his team has been knocking at that door. I mean, we beat them twice, I think, by a point or two when they were a high seed, and one year they were a 1 seed. I think in New York, maybe, or I don't know where, but I just, my hat's off to him, how classy he was about it. The pain of it kind of depends on the team you have. I mean, it's always going to be painful, but if you got really good guys like I had that lived, eat, and slept to try to move on in this tournament and get beat in the first game, there was nothing like that locker room. All the joyous ones I've been in, or all the sad ones I've been in, that one will live with me for the rest of my life, because it was a combination of incredible kids that gave me everything they could give me. We shot 58%. We shot 50-some% from the 3. We just got beat by a team that played better than us that night, because I think we shot 54, they shot 58, whatever it was. And Middle Tennessee beat us fair and square. There was no luck. I tried to find an official to blame, couldn't do that, and it was just, we got beat. So I feel for Tony.
Vedant Gupta, applying for Sports Illustrated for Kids, and I asked the players this question, and I wanted to ask you this. On St. Patrick's Day, I'm wearing these clothes because I'm proud of who I am and where I'm from, and I wanted to ask you, what are you proud of for where you're from, who you are, and your team?
Wow. Well, I'm an Italian guy, so I can celebrate any holiday. You know, I just go that way, and I'm a Uper, and I'm proud of being there. And I'm a Michigan State Spartan. I've been there for 33 years, and I'm pretty proud of that. So the green fits with St. Patrick's Day, you know, being a Spartan. And as far as my heritage, you know, I love Rocky Balboa. You know, I can keep the Italian way. And I guess being a Uper means a lot of things, but hopefully someday, you know, I can put them all together. How's that?
Hondo Carpenter, Spartan Nation. Tom, you've talked about not being entitled, but your dream was to build Michigan State to an elite level where other schools are at. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but there are tickets for tomorrow night going on the secondary market for as much as $2,000. What's that tell you about your fan base and the fact that you have arrived among the elite in college basketball?
Well, you know, I will admit that 21 years, I think we'd have to say that we're one of the teams, you know, but it's measured in so many different ways, and it is measured by your fan base, the interest in your program. I think, you know, there's no question that, you know, the texts and letters I got when they knew we were going to be in Detroit, so more people, I think a lot of people probably bought tickets early hoping that we'd be here. Unfortunately, the fans don't necessarily win you the game, but they help win you the game at certain times, and they have. They did last night. And I don't apologize for that, because I played in some down at, you know, Carolina when Duke and North Carolina were there, so everybody has his day in the sun. Kansas did last year when we had to play them in Tulsa. And this happened one other time 18 years ago. And but I appreciate our fans. I appreciate. I love coming down to Detroit. This facility is phenomenal, and the people here have been great. So all those things are good, but still got to win the game. And I am proud of where this program is at. I think we've come a long way, and yet I think we got a long way to go to get where I'd like to get.
Let's go to Larry down here in front.
Tom, how do you coach Cassius to go for singles? He talked about last night he likes to go for home runs, and your thoughts on Syracuse point guard that you have to go up against Frank Howard?
Well, I think Cassius last night, he threw that one lob. I didn't see what happened with Nick. All I saw is I thought it went off the other guy. I was complaining about that. I knew Nick was tough enough, and, I don't know. I think he was taking his time down there, and maybe he was a little tired. I don't know. The way he bounced up, I said, Nick, were you faking that or what? And yet it was a tough hit that he took. I mean, if you look at it on film, I guess we were lucky. But and then the other one, when he threw it, we had Nick in and Miles coming in. Hey, Cash is Cash, but he's improved so much that I didn't even get upset with him on the lob to those guys. I just felt like he's had 10 assists and 2 turnovers and done some great things. And he's going to have his work cut out for him tomorrow, though, because Howard is he's big, he's athletic. This will be a great test for Cassius, and we're going to have to guard him with multiple guys, and hopefully we can keep him in front of us. I think that'll be the big key to the game.
Tom, Chris Carlson from Syracuse.com. Sorry. I know I read earlier in the year that you wanted your team to be more physical. How would you assess kind of where they're at now? Because they certainly look like they've found the weight room.
Well, last night was a night when I thought that game got a little crazy, a little chippy, and bothered me for a while. And then I just said in the huddle, maybe we need this. It's about time we're not as physical as most of my teams. We're physically strong. We don't always play as physical. And last night, and Miles was a big part of that. I think he did a great job of being more aggressive and assertive. And I think everybody else kind of followed around him. But we'll see, because there's some trees we're going to play against tomorrow. I mean, it is the biggest team. I sat behind the bench for a while, and I sure as hell wouldn't want to coach that team. I'd be looking up all day long. I'd probably have a broken neck by the time the game was over. I never seen such size, but we're also looking forward to it.
Landed 10. What was Josh doing last night that allowed him to have such a big game, and what kind of growth have you seen from him over this season?
Josh went from a great offensive player to a phenomenal defensive player, and I think last week, that week off we had, we talked about he's such a good mid-range shooter, but when he does, he's always kind of kicking his feet and off balance, and so we really worked hard on getting him to be straight up and down and get him to look for those threes a little bit more. He's a good shooter, but if you're not thinking threes, if you're always thinking driving, you got to think shot first and drive second, if you ask me. And I think that's what he did a better job. He just looked so much more comfortable, and yet he did an unbelievable job defensively. I mean, that was the first night when I recruited him. I thought he could be the next Gary Harris, and last night was the first night when I saw it on both ends. He was very good defensively, very good offensively, and Josh is going to be a hell of a player. He's coming along great, and he's improved a lot since the beginning of the year, more defensively than offensively, and now he's starting to catch up with his offense, and couldn't come at a better time.
Tom, Chris Solari, Detroit Free Press. Can you talk a little bit about the differences between Syracuse's zone versus Duke's that you faced earlier, and just what you saw in the ball movement yesterday that could help or needs to be a little different against the zone?
Yeah, I mean, Syracuse's zone is different than anybody's in the world. I mean, they just, Duke plays a pretty good zone, but it's, I think Mike would be the first to admit that that's not his normal defense. I mean, Jim doesn't come out of a zone no matter what. I mean, he's played more zone defense than I've played man, and we play a lot of man. So it's a system. It's a culture there, to be honest with you. I mean, you go there and you're going to fit into that culture. He recruits to it. He believes in it. He sells it, and he does a hell of a job coaching it. And so it's something that most people don't see. It's a little wider. You know, I think Mike, because he has some size and because Jim coached with him in the Olympic team, you know, Jim didn't talk him into doing that with the Olympic team, but maybe he kind of talked him into showing him some of the things, because there's some similarities. It just, Syracuse lives, eats, and sleeps it, and that's all they play, and they play it very well.
Ernie Boone of Michigan Bulletin. Tom, when you signed this group, this sophomore group, everybody says it's the best you've ever had. What went through your head when Josh knocks down 15 in the first half, Bridges gets 19 in the second half, Cassius gets 10 assists? What went through your head?
You know, in all honesty, and Nick doesn't get enough credit, but he started it out where he hits the first, I think 3 of the first 4 baskets. So every one of those guys came through in some ways. The only guy that maybe didn't that next year was Jaron. We just couldn't keep him on the floor long enough. But yeah, that's what you hope would come, and yet it's not always easy, you know, when you have 4 or 5 guys like that. Thank God they're all unselfish and they're all egoless, but there's still only one ball. So sometimes, you know, that's where Miles has a problem. He'll defer because he believes in those other guys, and that's kind of a neat problem to have. But it was good to see that. I think last time I saw something like that was out at the tournament we were at in Portland, the Nike tournament, where we had 3 different leading scorers, and Miles wasn't one of them. And I think that's the kind of team we have, but I think Miles is starting to realize that he's got to be that go-to guy, and we have to go to him when games are on the line. You know, the one thing that has been pretty good for us is we've played in a lot of close games that upset some people, but it probably makes us more tournament ready, I hope.
We've got time for 1 or 2 more.
Tom, Justin Rose, WXYZ. Last year when the season ended, I know you were really excited about having more big bodies coming in. Kenny Goins' Garden guys last year, twice his size basically. Going against the tallest team in NCAA, how much do you think that front line and the depth of that front line can really sway things to help you here?
Well, I hope I can. You know, normally you try to get people in foul trouble, but with the zone they play, this team has not been in foul trouble that often, but just having different bodies to throw in there. I mean, last year it was Kenny. Sometimes it was a walk-on 6'5", you know, and that wouldn't fare too well here, you know, as it didn't against Purdue in our league. So, you know, we have the weapons, but the ball's still got to go in the basket. You know, that's the way this game was meant to be played. And so if you still got to be able to make shots, and making shots against that size and making shots against that zone is more difficult than maybe some other ways. You know, you don't just get to attack it inside before it's all over. They make great adjustments. Jim's done a great job. If you try to get it in the middle more, he makes adjustments. If you try to beat it from the outside, he makes adjustments. If you're trying to go inside, they make adjustments. I think he played it so much and they know it so well that there's a lot of adjustments they make. And so we've got to kind of be solid in all areas to beat them.
Last question.
Tom, getting back to Josh for a second, you mentioned Gary Harris, and I'm sure Josh has that kind of goal after Michigan State. You mentioned last fall, I remember him dealing with expectations, both that you guys had as a staff and then him for himself and maybe from some other places. How has he navigated all that this year?
Yeah, you know, I think he's done a great job. I mean, once in a while, if you watch Josh's facial language, I think it's kind of like Jaron's at time, you know, as, you know, Josh came in with Miles and, you know, both of them kind of McDonald's All-Americans. And, you know, Miles and them they're best friends. But there's been a little bit separation between the two, and I think he had to learn how to deal with that. And and realize that there is a process, and the process takes longer for different people. It doesn't mean, you know, Josh has started here 2 years, and trust me when I say he's made great progress. I mean, he's defending about as well as anybody I've had since Gary, and that's going to benefit us and benefit him. But now he's starting to find his offense, and I think it's difficult when expectations are so high for yourself and your team, and that fine line of being selfish enough to be successful and not too selfish so that you become a problem. And I think he's done a great job, and I think the reason he's done a great job is the chemistry. You know, everybody knows that Miles and he and Tom are like brothers, or sometimes like three stooges, but they're all together, you know, and that's important.
We appreciate Coach Izzo's time. Syracuse will be here in 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Best of luck. Okay. It's up to there.